My fiancé accidentally texted me he could finally stop pretending to love me after our wedding. Tomorrow, I'm exposing him to both our families. My fiancé Brandon was laughing in the kitchen when my phone buzzed on the coffee table. I glanced down at the notification and saw his name lighting up the screen, except I could hear him 20 feet away making himself a sandwich. This message made me rethink my whole life. Once the wedding's over and she's locked in, I can finally stop pretending I'm happy all the time. I read it twice, 3 times. The words didn't change. My hands went cold as I picked up the phone and opened the full thread. It was meant for his brother, Ryan. The message sat there beneath a string of texts about groomsmen suits and bachelor party plans, completely out of place and impossibly specific. Brandon walked into the living room still chewing, his face easy and relaxed. Hey, you want to grab Ty tonight or? What does this mean? My voice came out thinner than I wanted it to. He squinted at me, confused. Then his eyes dropped to the phone in my hand. The color drained from his face so fast I actually watched it happen. He lunged forward and grabbed for the phone, but I pulled it back. Let me see that. No, answer the question. Babe, come on, don't answer it. He ran a hand through his hair and tried to smile, but it looked wrong. Stretched too tight. It's nothing. I was venting to Ryan, okay? Wedding stress is insane, and I just needed to blow off steam with my brother. You're taking it the wrong way. Blow off steam? I held the phone up so he could see his own words. You said you're pretending. You said once I'm locked in. That's not what I meant. It's guy talk. We say stuff we don't mean all the time. His voice pitched higher, defensive and scrambling. You know how Ryan and I are. We mess around. It was a joke. It doesn't read like a joke. Well, it was. He stepped closer, his tone shifting into something softer, almost pleading. Come on, Claire. You know I love you. I'm stressed about the wedding, about money, about a million things, and sometimes I say dumb stuff to cope. That's all this is. I scrolled up in the thread, scanning for context, for anything that would make this make sense. There were a few messages about the ceremony, a couple about his parents helping with the down payment on the house we were supposed to move into after the honeymoon, nothing that framed his message as sarcasm or humor. It just sat there, blunt and honest. If you're pretending, I said slowly, then what are you pretending about? Brandon's jaw worked like he was chewing through possible answers. I'm not pretending about us. I swear. Weddings are a lot, okay? Everyone's always watching, always asking questions, and yeah, sometimes I feel like I have to perform. That's what I meant. Not about you. About everyone else. I stared at him. He stared back. The silence stretched until it felt like something physical sitting between us. That's not what you said. It's what I meant. You said once I'm locked in. That's just... He exhaled hard and looked at the ceiling. I don't know why I phrased it like that. I was being dramatic. Ryan and I talk like that sometimes. It doesn't mean anything. I wanted to believe him. Part of me was already reaching for reasons to explain it away, to smooth it over and pretend my stomach wasn't twisting into knots. But another part of me, the part that had been quietly cataloging every time he seemed distant during wedding planning, every time he brushed off my excitement about flowers or seating charts, every time his smile didn't quite reach his eyes, that part was screaming. I need you to leave, I said. What? Get out. Go to Ryan's or your parents or wherever. I need space to think. Brandon's face shifted through confusion, anger, and something close to panic before he finally grabbed his keys off the hook by the door. Claire, this is ridiculous. Get out. He left. The door clicked shut and I sat on the couch staring at his message until the screen went dark. Then I opened it again and read it 5 more times, like the words might rearrange themselves into something less devastating. My best friend Vanessa called an hour later. I'd texted her a screenshot with no explanation, and she'd apparently dropped everything to call me back. What am I looking at? Her voice was sharp, alert. Exactly what it looks like. He said this to Ryan? Yeah, meant for Ryan. Sent it to me by mistake. There was a pause. I could hear her breathing, processing. Claire, what the hell? He says it was venting. Wedding stress. Guy talk. That's not guy talk. That's... She stopped herself. What are you going to do? I don't know. Do you believe him? That it was just stress? I didn't answer right away. The question sat there and I realized I'd been avoiding asking myself the same thing. I don't think so. Then you need to cancel. You need to call this off. It's 3 weeks away, Ness. The deposits are down. My parents already paid for half the venue. His parents are flying in family from out of state. So what? You think you should marry someone who's counting down the days until you're trapped? Hearing her say it out loud made something crack open in my chest. I just need to think. She didn't push, but I could feel her disapproval through the phone. We talked for another 20 minutes, and by the end of it, I felt steadier. Like maybe I wasn't overreacting. Maybe this was as bad as it seemed. Brandon texted me around midnight. I'd been lying in bed scrolling through our old messages, looking for signs I'd missed. Can we please talk tomorrow? I hate that you're upset. I love you. I didn't respond. He showed up the next morning with flowers. Not a small bouquet. A massive arrangement of roses and lilies that probably cost more than our grocery budget for the week. He stood in the doorway holding them like a shield. Can I come in? I stepped aside and he walked past me, setting the flowers on the kitchen counter. They looked absurd there. Too big and too perfect. I'm sorry, he said. I'm really, genuinely sorry. I was an idiot for saying that to Ryan. I didn't mean it the way it sounded. Then how did you mean it? I told you. Wedding stress. I've been overwhelmed and I said something dumb to blow off steam. You said you were pretending. Not with you. Not about us. He moved closer, his expression soft and earnest. Claire, I love you. I want to marry you. I'm just exhausted from planning and dealing with family opinions and venue drama and all of it. Sometimes I feel like I'm performing for everyone else and it wears me out. That's what I meant. It sounded reasonable. It sounded like something I might even say myself on a bad day. But the words words kept circling back to locked in, and I couldn't shake how deliberate that phrasing felt. Why did you say locked in? He hesitated. Just a beat, but I caught it. I don't know. Poor word choice. I wasn't thinking. It sounds like you think marriage is a trap. It's not. I don't. He reached for my hand and I let him take it, even though his palm felt wrong against mine. I'm sorry I scared you. I swear it was just me being dramatic with my brother. It doesn't mean anything about how I feel about you. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to fold this up and put it away and move forward with the wedding and pretend the message had never existed. But something in his eyes wouldn't hold still. Something kept darting away every time I tried to lock onto it. Okay, I said. His whole body relaxed. Okay? I need time to process this, but okay. He kissed my forehead and left a little while later, and the second the door closed, I felt like I could breathe again. The flowers sat on the counter smelling too sweet, almost cloying, and I shoved them into the corner where I wouldn't have to look at them. Vanessa called again that afternoon. Did he come by? Yeah, with flowers. Of course he did. Her tone was dry. What did he say? I summarized the conversation, and she listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Claire, you know I love you, right? Yeah, so I'm saying this because I care. That whole explanation sounds like garbage. I know. Do you? Because it sounds like you're convincing yourself to ignore this. I didn't have a good answer for that. She was right. I was already halfway to talking myself into believing Brandon's story, because the alternative was too big and too messy and too close to the wedding. Just promise me you'll keep your eyes open, she said. If he's lying, he'll slip up again. That night, Brandon texted me a reservation confirmation for dinner at the restaurant where we'd had our first date. The message came with a string of heart emojis and a note about wanting to remind me why we worked. It felt calculated, not spontaneous or sweet, but carefully designed to manipulate my emotions. I stared at it for a long time before typing back a single thumbs up. He called the next morning while I was getting ready for work. Hey, I was thinking we could go look at that house again this weekend, the one near my parents. I know you liked it. I thought we were still deciding between that one and the condo downtown. Yeah, but the house makes more sense long term. And my parents are helping with the down payment, so it feels like the smarter move. There it was again. His parents. Money. The things that kept creeping into every conversation we had about the future. I'd noticed it before but always brushed it off as practical thinking. Now it felt like the only thing he cared about. Sure, I said. We can look. Great. Love you. Love you too. I hung up and stared at my reflection in the bathroom mirror. The woman looking back at me seemed tired and smaller than I remembered. I thought about Vanessa's warning, about keeping my eyes open, about watching for him to slip up. And then I thought about his phone, sitting on the nightstand when he stayed over, and how easy it would be to look through it while he was in the shower. I didn't look at his phone that night. I talked myself out of it a dozen times, pacing the apartment after he texted me goodnight. Vanessa's voice kept playing in my head. Keep your eyes open. But snooping felt like crossing a line I couldn't uncross. If I found nothing, I'd feel guilty. If I found something, everything would blow up. I wasn't ready for either option. Brandon ramped up the sweetness over the next few days. He sent me good morning texts with coffee cup emojis. He brought lunch to my office, surprising me in front of my coworkers who all cooed about how thoughtful he was. He suggested we take dance lessons for the wedding, even though he'd shot down that idea months ago when I'd first brought it up. Every gesture felt like a performance, something choreographed to distract me from the message I couldn't forget. You seem off, he said one night over dinner. We were at the restaurant he'd picked, the one from our first date, and I'd barely touched my food. Are you still upset about the text? I'm fine. You're not fine. You've been quiet all week. He reached across the table and covered my hand with his. Talk to me. I just have a lot on my mind. Wedding stuff, among other things. He squeezed my hand. Claire, I need you to believe me when I say that message didn't mean anything. I was venting to Ryan about stress. That's it. I don't want this hanging over us. I'm trying. Are you? Because it feels like you're pulling away. The accusation landed wrong, defensive and sharp, like I was the problem for not getting over it fast enough. I pulled my hand back and picked up my fork, pushing pasta around my plate. I'm not pulling away, I'm processing. For how long? As long as it takes. His jaw tightened. He looked away, exhaling slowly through his nose like he was counting to 10. When he looked back, his expression had smoothed into something softer, more patient. Okay, I get it. I messed up and you need time. I just wish you'd let me fix this. You can't fix it by buying me dinner, Brandon. Then what do you want me to do? I didn't have an answer. What I wanted was to rewind 2 weeks and not read the message in the first place, to go back to planning the wedding without this pit in my stomach. But that wasn't an option, so I just shrugged and said, I don't know. We finished dinner in near silence. He paid the check and walked me to my car, kissing me goodnight like everything was normal. The second I drove away, I felt the weight of his attention lift off me, and I realized how exhausting it had been to sit across from him for 2 hours. My mom called the next day while I was at work. I let it go to voicemail twice before finally picking up on the third attempt. Claire, honey, I've been trying to reach you. Sorry, I've been busy. Too busy to talk to your mother? Her tone was light, but there was an edge underneath. I wanted to check in about the final head count. The venue needs numbers by next week. I know, I'll get it to you. Is everything okay? You sound distracted. I hesitated. My mom had been so excited about this wedding. More excited than I'd been in months, if I was being honest. She'd taken over half the planning, coordinating with Brandon's mom, booking vendors, managing RSVPs. Telling her something was wrong felt like pulling the foundation out from under her. Everything's fine, just wedding stress. Well, that's normal. Every bride gets nervous before the big day. She launched into a story about her own wedding jitters, and I let her talk, making agreeable noises at the right moments. When she finally paused for breath, she added, Oh, and Brandon's mother called me yesterday. She mentioned that you and Brandon looked at that house again? Yeah, we did. She's so excited about helping with the down payment. It's very generous of them. There it was again. The down payment, the house, money tangled up in everything. Yeah, very generous. You don't sound enthusiastic. I'm just tired, Mom. She made a sympathetic noise and told me to get some rest, and we hung up. I sat at my my desk staring at my computer screen, not seeing anything. The conversation felt like pressure building, like everyone around me was invested in this wedding moving forward, and I was the only one with doubts. Brandon stayed over that weekend. I didn't invite him, but he showed up Friday night with takeout and a bottle of wine, letting himself in with the key I'd given him months ago. He kissed me hello and started unpacking containers of Thai food, chattering about his week like nothing was wrong. Ryan's being a pain about the bachelor party, he said, handing me a plate. He wants to go to that place downtown, but it's way too expensive. I told him we should just do something low-key, but you know how he is. I nodded, only half listening. Brandon kept talking, filling the silence, and I realized he did that a lot. Talked at me instead of with me. I couldn't remember the last time he'd asked about my day, my work, my thoughts on anything that didn't involve the wedding or the house. He spent the night. I lay awake beside him while he slept, staring at the ceiling and listening to him breathe. His phone was on the nightstand, screen down, and I thought about rolling over and picking it up. I could check while he was asleep, just a quick look to settle my nerves. But I didn't. I rolled onto my side, facing away from him, and tried to sleep. The next morning, he was in the shower when his phone buzzed. I was making coffee in the kitchen and heard it vibrate against the nightstand in the bedroom. Once, twice, 3 times in quick succession. My feet moved before my brain caught up, carrying me to the bedroom doorway where I could see the phone lighting up with notifications. I picked it up. The screen showed a preview of messages from Ryan. I couldn't see the full texts, just fragments. Did you talk to Dad about, and make sure she doesn't, and after the wedding we can... The shower shut off. I put the phone down exactly where I'd found it, screen down, and walked back to the kitchen. My pulse was hammering, but I focused on pouring coffee into 2 mugs, acting normal, pretending I hadn't just crossed a line. Brandon came out a few minutes later, dressed and smiling. Smells good. I handed him a mug. Your phone was buzzing. Looked like Ryan. Yeah? I'll check it later. He kissed my temple and took a sip of coffee. What do you want to do today? I have some errands to run. Want company? I'm good. You should probably get back to your place anyway. Don't you have that thing with your parents tonight? His smile faltered. You're kicking me out? I'm not kicking you out, I just need some space. Space? He set his mug down. Claire, we're getting married in 2 weeks. We're not supposed to need space. Well, I do. He stared at me for a long moment, something hard flickering behind his eyes. Then he nodded slowly. Fine, I'll go. He grabbed his keys and his phone and left without saying goodbye. The door closed harder than it needed to, and I stood in the kitchen holding my coffee mug, replaying the message fragments in my head. Make sure she doesn't what? Doesn't find out? Doesn't change her mind? I texted Vanessa. Can you come over? She showed up 20 minutes later with pastries and a grim expression. I told her about the dinner, the phone messages, the way Brandon had been overcompensating all week. You need to look at his phone, she said. I can't just snoop through his stuff. Why not? He's clearly hiding something. Because if he catches me, he'll say I'm paranoid and controlling, and he'll flip this whole thing around on me. Vanessa bit into a croissant, considering, so don't get caught. Ness, I'm serious. He left his phone out. He's getting sloppy. Next time you have the chance, look. She leaned forward. Claire, you're about to legally bind yourself to this man. If there's something wrong, you need to know before you sign papers. She was right. I knew she was right. But the idea of actively looking for proof that my fiancé was lying to me felt like admitting our relationship was already over. Brandon came over Tuesday night without calling first. I was on the couch scrolling through old photos of us, looking for the moment things had changed, when I heard his key in the lock. Hey, he held up a bag from my favorite Italian place. Peace offering? I didn't want him there. I wanted space to think, to breathe, to figure out what I was doing. But he was already unpacking containers on the counter, pulling out plates like he owned the place. I wasn't expecting you. I know. I just missed you. He came over and kissed the top of my head. We've been weird lately and I hate it. Can we just have a normal night? Normal. Like the message had never happened. Like I hadn't seen fragments of texts about making sure I didn't do something. I wanted to ask him about it, to demand answers, but I was exhausted from carrying this weight alone. Sure. We ate dinner. He talked about work, about his coworker who kept messing up reports, about the new coffee shop that opened near his office. Surface level things that required nothing from me except occasional nods. When we finished, he suggested a movie and I agreed because saying no felt like more effort than just going along with it. Halfway through, his phone buzzed on the coffee table. He glanced at it and his expression shifted, just for a second, a flicker of something tense, before he picked it up and typed a quick response. Everything okay? I asked. Yeah, just Ryan being Ryan. What does he want? Nothing important. He set the phone face down and put his arm around me, pulling me closer. Forget about him. Let's just watch the movie. But I couldn't forget. I kept staring at his phone sitting there between us, thinking about what might be in those messages. When Brandon got up to use the bathroom, I grabbed it. His passcode was my birthday. I'd set it up for him months ago, teasing him about how easy it would be for me to snoop. He'd laughed and said he had nothing to hide. The phone unlocked. I opened his messages and went straight to the thread with Ryan. The conversation scrolled back weeks. Most of it was mundane, bachelor party planning, work complaints, sports scores. But then I found it, dated just a few days after the original message that had started this whole thing. Did you smooth things over with Claire? Yeah, mostly. She's still suspicious, but I'm working on it. You need to lock this down before she gets cold feet. Dad's already started the paperwork for the house transfer. I know, I'm handling it. Just make sure she doesn't find out about the trust stipulation. Once you're married, it doesn't matter, but if she bails now, we're screwed. She won't find out. And even if she did, I'd just tell her it's standard family stuff. I scrolled further. There were more messages, scattered across different days, all circling back to the same theme. The house, the money, his parents' trust that apparently required him to be married before he could access a significant portion. The down payment they'd offered wasn't generosity, it was insurance. A way to make sure I went through with the wedding so Brandon could meet whatever requirement his family had set. I heard the toilet flush. I closed closed out of the messages and set the phone back on the table, screen down, exactly how he'd left it. When Brandon came back, I was staring at the TV like I'd been watching the whole time. "You okay?" he asked. "Fine." He settled back onto the couch and pulled me against him again. I sat rigid, my mind racing, trying to figure out what to do with what I'd just learned. Part of me wanted to confront him immediately, to hold up his phone and read every message out loud. But another part, the part that was learning to think strategically, told me to wait, to gather everything first, to make sure I had the whole picture before I blew it all up. The movie ended. Brandon kissed me goodnight and left around 11, reminding me about the venue meeting we had scheduled with both our mothers later in the week. I nodded and smiled and closed the door behind him, then immediately called Vanessa. "He's doing this for money," I said the second she picked up. "His parents have some kind of trust requirement that he has to be married to access it. That's why he's going through with the wedding." "Are you serious?" I saw the messages, him and Ryan talking about house transfers and trust stipulations and making sure I don't find out. Vanessa was quiet for a beat. "Claire, you need to call this off." "I know. Like right now, tonight. Call him back and tell him the wedding's canceled. I can't just, there's so much money already invested. The venue, the catering, my parents already bought my dress. Who cares? You're about to marry someone who sees you as a financial transaction." She was right. I knew she was right. But the thought of actually canceling, of facing my family's disappointment and Brandon's anger and the enormous mess this would create, made me want to crawl under my bed and disappear. "I need proof," I said. "Screenshots or something. Otherwise he'll just deny it and make me look paranoid." "Then get proof. Next time you have his phone, take screenshots and send them to yourself. What if he notices? Delete the evidence after you send it. Check his sent messages folder and delete it from there too." I spent the next day at work barely functioning, running through scenarios in my head. That night I texted Brandon asking if he wanted to come over. He showed up with that same eager energy, like he was winning me back one dinner at a time. We ordered pizza. He talked about the honeymoon, about how excited he was to finally relax after all the wedding stress. Every word felt like a knife. When he went to grab us beers from the fridge, I took his phone again. This time I was ready. I opened the thread with Ryan, scrolled to the relevant messages, and took screenshot after screenshot. Then I texted them to myself, deleted the text from his sent folder, and put the phone back. My own phone buzzed in my pocket. The screenshots were there, clear and damning. I had proof. Brandon came back with 2 bottles and settled onto the couch beside me, completely oblivious. We watched another movie. He held my hand. When he left that night, he told me he loved me and I said it back, the words tasting like ash. The venue meeting was Friday. Both our mothers were already there when Brandon and I arrived, sitting at a table with the event coordinator spread out in front of them with seating charts and timeline documents. My mom looked up with a bright smile that dimmed when she saw my face. "Claire, honey, you look tired." "I'm fine." Brandon's mom, Patricia, stood to hug us both. "We're just finalizing the last few details. This is going to be such a beautiful day." The coordinator walked us through everything. Cocktail hour timing, dinner service, the schedule for speeches and first dances. My mom asked questions about linens and centerpieces. Patricia wanted to confirm the song list for the DJ. Brandon nodded along, making agreeable sounds, playing the role of excited groom. I sat there with my phone in my pocket, the screenshots burning a hole through the fabric. I could pull it out right now, show both mothers what their sons had been saying, end this before it went any further. "Claire," the coordinator was looking at me, "what do you think about the seating arrangement?" "It's fine." My mom frowned. "You didn't even look at it. I'm sure whatever you picked is fine." "Sweetheart, this is your wedding. You should care about these details." Brandon squeezed my hand under the table. A warning or a comfort, I couldn't tell. "She's just overwhelmed, Mrs. Lawson." "We both are. Everything looks great." The meeting dragged on for another hour. By the time we finished, I felt like I'd been holding my breath the entire time. We walked out to the parking lot together, both mothers still chattering about flowers and favors, and Brandon put his arm around me like we were the perfect couple. "That went well," Patricia said. "I'm so excited for you two." My mom hugged me goodbye, and I felt the weight of her expectations, her joy, her investment in this wedding that was about to implode. Brandon kissed me and promised to call later, and then they were all gone, and I was standing alone in the parking lot with my phone full of evidence and no idea how to use it. I drove to Vanessa's apartment instead of going home. She opened the door in sweatpants with her hair in a messy bun and took one look at my face before pulling me inside. "What happened?" I showed her the screenshots. She read through them twice, her expression hardening with each swipe. "This is it," she said. "This is proof. You need to end this now." "I know. So why do you sound like you're not sure?" I sank onto her couch. "Because once I do this, it's done. There's no taking it back. My family's going to be devastated. His family's going to hate me. Everyone's going to have opinions and questions and— Claire. She sat beside me and grabbed my hand. "He's using you. For money. You understand that, right? This isn't about cold feet or wedding jitters. He literally only wants to marry you to get access to his trust fund." "I know. Then what's the problem?" "I don't know how to do this. Do I just text him, call him, show up at his place?" "You confront him face to face, with witnesses. You make him own what he did in front of people so he can't spin it later." The thought made me want to throw up, but she was right. If I did this privately, Brandon would find a way to twist the story, to make me look unstable or paranoid. I needed other people to hear the truth straight from the source. "Both families," I said slowly. "I'll get both families together. Tell them I have something important to discuss about the wedding." Vanessa nodded. "When?" "Tomorrow. Sunday dinner. We were already supposed to do a joint family thing next weekend, but I'll move it up." I texted my mom first, keeping it vague. "Can we do family dinner tomorrow instead of next week? Something important came up about the wedding." She responded within minutes, concerned, but agreeable. Then I texted Patricia with the same message. She called instead of texting back. "Claire, honey, is everything all right?" "Everything's fine. I just need to talk to everyone together." "About the wedding?" "Yeah, it's nothing bad, I promise. Just some decisions that need to be made." The lie tasted bitter, but I forced it out. She agreed to tomorrow at 6 at my parents' house. I hung up and immediately texted Brandon. "Family dinner tomorrow at my parents'? Both families. 6 o'clock. He called. I let it ring twice before answering. What's this about? Just some wedding stuff we need to finalize. Can't we do it with just us? It involves both families. Just show up, okay? He was quiet for a beat. You're being weird. I'm being efficient. We have a week left and there's still loose ends. Fine, I'll be there. I hung up before he could ask more questions. Vanessa was watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read. You're really doing this. I'm really doing this. That night, I barely slept. I kept rehearsing what I'd say, how I'd present the screenshots, what Brandon's face would look like when he realized I knew everything. My alarm went off Sunday morning and I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. Brandon texted around noon. Hey, what should I bring tonight? I stared at the message for a full minute before typing back. Just yourself. The day crawled by. I helped my mom set up the dining room, moving chairs and setting out plates while she chattered about how nice it would be to have both families together before the wedding. Every word was a knife. My dad asked if I was feeling okay, and I told him I was just tired. I'd texted Vanessa to meet us at 6 as a witness. Someone neutral needed to hear it. Brandon and his parents arrived first. Patricia brought wine, and Brandon's dad, Roger, immediately started talking to my father about golf. Brandon came over and kissed my cheek, and I let him, storing up the memory of his casual affection before everything shattered. Ryan showed up 10 minutes later. He clapped Brandon on the back and made some joke about bachelor parties that everyone laughed at except me. I stood in the kitchen doorway watching them all mingle, these people who had no idea what was about to happen. Should we sit? My mom asked, checking her watch. Yeah, let's sit. Everyone gathered around the dining room table. My mom had made roast chicken and vegetables, completely unaware this wasn't a celebratory dinner. The smell made me nauseous. So, my dad said once everyone had plates in front of them, what's this about, Claire? I pulled out my phone. Every eye in the room turned to me. Brandon was smiling, relaxed, completely unprepared. Ryan was cutting into his chicken. Patricia was reaching for the wine. I need to show everyone something, I said. Some messages I found on Brandon's phone. Brandon's smile froze. Claire, these are from Brandon and Ryan's conversation. I started reading directly from the screenshots. Did you smooth things over with Claire? Yeah, mostly. She's still suspicious, but I'm working on it. Claire, stop! Brandon's voice was sharp now, panicked. I kept going. You need to lock this down before she gets cold feet. Dad's already started the paperwork for the house transfer. Roger's fork clattered against his plate. Patricia went pale. That's out of context, Brandon said, standing up. You're taking that completely out of context. Just make sure she doesn't find out about the trust stipulation. I read, my voice steady even though my hands wanted to shake. Once you're married, it doesn't matter, but if she bails now, we're screwed. What trust stipulation? My mom asked, looking between Brandon and Patricia. Patricia opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Roger was staring at Brandon with an expression I couldn't name. Ryan had gone very still, his eyes fixed on his brother. There's a family trust, Brandon said finally. His voice was different now, stripped of the easy charm he usually wore. It requires me to be married before I can access certain assets. But that doesn't mean... She won't find out, I interrupted, reading the last message. And even if she did, I'd just tell her it's standard family stuff. The silence was deafening. My dad was the first to speak. You're marrying my daughter for money? No, that's not... Brandon ran his hand through his hair. It's more complicated than that. It sounds pretty simple to me, Vanessa said, already in the doorway with her arms crossed. Right on time. This is a private family matter, Patricia said, finding her voice. Her eyes were on me, sharp and defensive. Claire, you had no right to go through Brandon's private messages. I had every right, I shot back. He sent me a message by accident 2 weeks ago saying he was pretending to be happy and couldn't wait until I was locked in. I've been trying to figure out what that meant ever since. That was taken out of context too, Brandon insisted. I was venting about wedding stress, not about you. Really? Because these messages say otherwise. I held up my phone. You're not marrying me because you love me. You're marrying me because your family's money is tied up in a trust requirement. Roger spoke up, his voice heavy. Brandon, is this true? Brandon looked at his father, then at me, then back at the table. His shoulders sagged. The trust has a marriage clause, yes, but that's not why I proposed. I love Claire. The trust thing is just, it's a factor, but it's not the only factor. A factor? My voice came out flat. I'm a factor in your financial planning. That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? My dad demanded. Because from where I'm sitting, it sounds like you manipulated my daughter into a marriage so you could access your inheritance. I didn't manipulate anyone. Brandon's voice rose. Claire and I had a real relationship. The trust thing just, it made the timing make sense. The timing, my mom repeated quietly. She was looking at me now, her face stricken. Claire, did you know about this trust? Not until this week. He never told me. Neither did Patricia or Roger. I turned to Brandon's parents. Did you offer the down payment on the house knowing it would make it harder for me to back out? Patricia's silence was answer enough. Ryan cleared his throat, breaking the suffocating silence. Look, this is all being blown out of proportion. A lot of families have trust requirements. It's not that unusual. Then why hide it? Vanessa pushed off from the doorframe, her voice cutting. If it's so normal, why didn't Brandon tell Claire from the beginning? Because he knew how it would look, my dad said. His voice had gone cold in a way I'd never heard before. He knew my daughter would never agree to marry someone who saw her as a means to an end. That's not fair, Brandon said, but there was no conviction in his voice anymore. I do love Claire. The trust doesn't change that. I looked at him across the table, this man I'd almost bound my life to, and asked the only question that mattered. But you would have married me anyway, even without the trust requirement, right? He hesitated. The pause was less than a second, maybe just a breath, but everyone in the room felt it land like a stone in water. That hesitation told me everything I needed to know. Get out, my dad dad said. Mr. Lawson, get out of my house. All of you. He gestured toward Brandon, Ryan, Patricia, and Roger with a sweep of his arm. This wedding is off. You're not marrying my daughter for a paycheck. Patricia stood up, her expression hardening from defensive to something uglier. Angry. You're making a huge mistake, Claire. Do you know how much money your parents have already sunk into this wedding? How much we've invested? You're throwing away everything over a misunderstanding. It's not a misunderstanding, my mom said quietly. She'd been silent through most of the confrontation, but now she stood up and moved to stand beside my dad. Brandon lied to our daughter. You all did. The wedding is canceled. Brandon's phone started ringing. The sound was jarringly loud in the tense silence. He pulled it out, and I saw Ryan's name on the screen, even though Ryan was sitting right there at the table. Brandon's eyes went wide, and he looked at his brother, whose face had drained of all color. Answer it, I said. It's nothing. Answer it on speaker. Brandon's hand was visibly shaking now as he accepted the call and tapped the speaker button. Ryan's voice filled the room, tinny and rushed, and completely unaware he was on speaker. Hey, just checking. Did Claire figure anything out? Dad's freaking out about the trust paperwork and wants to know if we need to accelerate the timeline. The Ryan at the table lunged across his chair toward Brandon's phone, but my dad was faster. He grabbed it from Brandon's hand and held it out of reach. Who is this? My dad demanded into the phone. There was a pause, confusion crackling through the speaker. Then a different voice, older and measured. This is Gerald Whitman, the family attorney. Who is this? This is Robert Lawson, Claire's father, and I think you and your sons have some explaining to do. The line went dead. We all stared at Roger at the table, who was looking at Brandon's phone like it had personally betrayed him. That was a recording, Ryan said desperately, his voice pitching higher. Someone's messing with us, setting us up. Really? Vanessa pulled out her own phone with a predatory smile. Because I can call Roger's number right now and verify. Want me to? No one answered. The silence stretched and stretched until it felt like the air itself was pressing down on all of us, suffocating and heavy. Brandon finally spoke, his voice hollow and defeated. I'm sorry. Sorry for what? I asked. For lying? For using me? For wasting months of my life? For all of it. He wouldn't look at me, his eyes fixed somewhere on the table between us. The trust requirement was real. And yes, it factored into my decision to propose when I did. But I did care about you, Claire. That part wasn't fake. Just not enough to tell me the truth. He didn't argue. There was nothing left to argue with. Patricia gathered her purse from where she'd hung it on the chair, her movements sharp and angry. We'll expect reimbursement for the expenses we've covered. Absolutely not, my mom said, and her voice had turned to steel. You lied to us. Manipulated our daughter. You're not getting a cent. We'll see what our lawyer says about that. Please do. I'd love to have this conversation in front of a judge. Patricia's mouth thinned into a bloodless line, but she didn't respond. She walked out, her heels clicking sharply against the hardwood, and Roger followed without a word. He wouldn't look at any of us, shoulders hunched like he was trying to disappear into himself. Ryan stood up, shot me one last guilty look, and hurried after his parents. Through the window, I could see them arguing in hushed voices on the front lawn, Patricia gesturing sharply, while Roger just stood there looking defeated. Brandon was the last to move. He stood slowly, like his legs didn't want to work properly, and made it halfway to the door before turning back. I really am sorry, Claire, for what it's worth. It's not worth anything, I said. The words came out easier than I expected. Get out. He left. The door closed behind him with a soft click that felt impossibly loud. The house fell into silence except for the sound of my mother crying softly. Vanessa's hand found mine across the table and squeezed. My dad was the first to move. He walked to the door Brandon had just left through and locked it, like he was worried they might try to come back. Then he turned to face me, and his whole expression crumbled. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I should have seen this. I should have protected you. You couldn't have known. I should have asked more questions, done more digging. He pressed both palms against his eyes. I was so excited about you getting married that I didn't stop to wonder why he was in such a rush. My mom wiped her eyes and stood up, moving around the table to pull me into a hug that smelled like her perfume and roast chicken at home. You saved yourself, she said into my hair. You figured it out before it was too late. I let her hold me, feeling the tension of the last 2 weeks finally start to drain away. The relief was physical, like someone had been standing on my chest and finally stepped off. Vanessa squeezed my shoulder and quietly excused herself to give us space, but I could hear her in the kitchen already making phone calls, canceling vendors probably, or calling my bridesmaids to give them a heads up before the gossip mill started churning. What do we do now? My mom asked, pulling back to look at me. About the venue, the caterer, all the guests who already made travel plans? I'll handle it, my dad said. We'll send out an email tonight explaining that the wedding's been canceled due to unforeseen circumstances. People will understand. Some people won't, I said. The reality was starting to sink in now. Some people are going to want explanations and gossip and drama. Let them, Vanessa called from the kitchen. Anyone who matters will be on your side. My phone started buzzing in my pocket. I pulled it out and saw Brandon's name lighting up the screen. I declined the call. It rang again immediately. Declined again. Then a text came through. Please let me explain. It's not what you think. I showed it to my parents. My dad took the phone from my hand and blocked Brandon's number without asking permission. Then he handed it back. You don't owe him anything, he said. Another text came through, this time from a number I didn't recognize. Claire, this is Patricia. We need to talk about the financial arrangements for the wedding. There are contracts in place. My mom read over my shoulder and made a disgusted noise. The nerve of that woman. Her son lies to you and she's worried about money. Should I respond? Absolutely not. Let her talk to our lawyer if she wants to push it. I blocked that number too. Then Ryan's name appeared with a text that just said, I'm sorry. For what it's worth, I told him this was wrong. I typed back, but you didn't stop him, before blocking him as well. Vanessa came back into the dining room with her laptop. Okay, I've got the vendor list pulled up. We need to start making calls first thing tomorrow. The venue might keep the deposit, but most of the others should be understanding given the circumstances. What circumstances do we tell them? I asked. The truth. Groom turned out to be a lying jerk marrying for money. Happens more than you'd think, unfortunately. My mom started clearing plates from the table, her movements sharp and angry, coping through action the way she always did. We paid for the dress, the alterations, the flowers. Do you know how much we've spent on this wedding? I know, Mom. Mom, I'm sorry. Don't apologize. She stopped and looked at me, really looked at me. Don't you dare apologize for his choices. He did this. Not you. My phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. I almost didn't check, but something made me look. Claire, it's Roger. Please call me. Brandon made mistakes, but we can fix this. The trust requirement can be waived under certain circumstances. We can make this right. I showed my dad, who snorted. Now he wants to negotiate. Where was this reasonableness when his son was lying to you for months? I didn't respond to Roger either. Instead, I opened my email and started drafting the cancellation notice. My dad sat beside me and we worked on the wording together, keeping it simple and dignified. Due to unforeseen circumstances, the wedding of Claire Lawson and Brandon Chambers scheduled for next Saturday has been canceled. We apologize for any inconvenience and thank you for your understanding. Should we say more, I asked? No. People who need details will ask, and we can tell them privately. Everyone else can speculate all they want. We sent the email to the guest list. Within minutes, responses started flooding in. Most were supportive, genuinely concerned, and offering help. Some were confused, asking gentle questions. A few were nosy and inappropriate. Asking for details like this was entertainment rather than my life falling apart. My college roommate wrote back immediately asking if I was okay and offering to drive over. My aunt sent a long message about how she'd never trusted Brandon anyway, and she was glad I'd come to my senses. One of my coworkers asked if this meant she could return the gift she'd bought. Vanessa made a list of everyone we needed to call personally. The officiant, the photographer, my bridesmaids who'd already bought dresses and booked hotels. The task felt overwhelming, but she broke it down into manageable pieces, dividing responsibilities between the three of us and promising to help with all of it. What about your dress? My mom asked. Can we return it? I don't know. I don't care. The dress was hanging in my closet at home, wrapped in plastic, a symbol of a future that no longer existed. Donate it. Sell it. Burn it. Whatever you want. We'll figure it out tomorrow, Vanessa said. Tonight you just need to breathe. But breathing felt impossible. My phone kept buzzing with responses to the email, with texts from friends asking what happened, with calls from numbers I didn't recognize that I had to assume were Brandon's family, trying different phones to get through to me. I turned it off completely and set it face down on the table. I need to go home, I said. I need to be alone. You're not going anywhere alone, Vanessa said firmly. I'm staying with you tonight. Ness, you don't have to. I'm staying. End of discussion. My parents walked us out to my car. My mom hugged me so tight I could barely breathe, and my dad kissed the top of my head like I was 10 years old again. We're proud of you, he said. This took real courage. Vanessa drove because my hands were shaking too badly to trust myself behind the wheel. We got back to my apartment and I half expected to see Brandon waiting outside, but the parking lot was empty. Vanessa made tea while I changed into sweatpants, and we sat on the couch not saying much of anything. How do you feel? She finally asked. I don't know. Empty, relieved, angry, all of it at once? That's normal, is it? Because I feel like I should be more upset, like I should be devastated or crying or something. But mostly I just feel numb. You've been grieving for 2 weeks already. You've been upset since the day you got that first text. Now you're just processing the aftermath. She sipped her tea. The emotions will come in waves, but so will the relief, and eventually the relief will win. I wanted to believe her. Right now, all I could see was the mess, the canceled venue, the wasted money, the explanations I'd have to give over and over to everyone who asked. Do you think he actually loved me? I asked. Or was it all an act from the beginning? Vanessa thought about it. I think he probably convinced himself he loved you because it made everything easier. People are really good at lying to themselves when it's convenient. That's not comforting. It's not supposed to be comforting. It's just true. We stayed up late, talking in circles about everything and nothing. Around 2 a.m, Vanessa fell asleep on my couch and I retreated to my bedroom. I turned my phone back on just long enough to check if there was anything urgent. 47 missed calls, dozens of texts, 3 voicemails. I deleted all of it without reading or listening and turned the phone off again. I took off Brandon's ring 3 days later. It had sat on my finger through all the cancellations and explanations, a weight I'd stopped noticing until suddenly I couldn't ignore it anymore. I set it on my kitchen counter and stared at it for a long time before finally putting it in a drawer I'd probably never open again. Word spread fast. By the end of the week, everyone who mattered knew what had happened. Brandon tried to control the narrative at first, telling mutual friends I'd overreacted to a misunderstanding. But the screenshots Vanessa had strategically shared with a few key people destroyed that story before it could take root. His reputation unraveled faster than I expected. People who'd smiled at him at parties and called him a great guy suddenly remembered all the times he'd seemed fake or too smooth or vaguely untrustworthy. His parents' lawyer sent one more threatening letter demanding reimbursement for wedding expenses. My dad's lawyer responded with a polite suggestion that they drop it unless they wanted their son's calculated deception made public record. We never heard from them again. The venue refunded half the deposit after my mom explained the circumstances. The dress went to a consignment shop where someone else could have the fairy tale I'd narrowly avoided. My bridesmaids turned the canceled weekend into a girls' trip to the beach, and we spent 3 days drinking wine and not talking about Brandon at all. I ran into Ryan at a coffee shop 2 weeks later. He opened his mouth like he wanted to say something, saw my face, and walked out without ordering. That felt like closure enough. The relief Vanessa promised did come, in waves, just like she said. So did moments of grief for the future I'd imagined, even if it had been built on lies. But mostly I felt free. Free from pretending, free from doubt, free from binding myself to someone who'd seen me as nothing more than a transaction. That accidental text had saved my life.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and drop your favorite part in the comments. See you in the next one.